If you're divorcing a narcissist, there's a good chance you've started saving everything. Every text, every email, every voicemail, every receipt, every screenshot, every social media post. And honestly, I understand why. When someone has lied to you, manipulated you, or rewritten reality for years, you feel an overwhelming need to prove the truth. But here's what I wish someone had told me much earlier. The court doesn't need more evidence. It needs better evidence. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see women make is overwhelming the court with information that feels emotionally important, but isn't legally persuasive. I'm Victoria McCooey, creator of She Breaks Free. My own divorce lasted 6 years, and today I help women navigate high conflict divorces with narcissistic partners by thinking strategically instead of emotionally. Today, I want to show you the difference between evidence that creates clarity and evidence that creates noise. Because understanding that difference can save you money, increase your credibility, and help the court focus on what really matters. Let's break this down into 3 things. First, why women feel compelled to document absolutely everything. Second, what judges are actually looking for. And finally, how to organize your evidence so it works for you instead of against you. Let's start with the first question. Why do women save everything? Because you've spent years not being believed. You've been gaslit. You have had your reality questioned. You've been told things never happened that did. You've been blamed for problems you didn't create. So once the divorce starts, it feels like you finally have an opportunity to prove the truth. And that instinct makes perfect sense. In fact, this very practice saved me from losing primary custody of my children because I had saved a handwritten note my ex had sent home in my boy's duffel bag. And that was what made me able to prove to the court that he wasn't telling the truth. That one piece of paper mattered. So let me be very clear. I absolutely want you to save everything. You never know which text or email or receipt or handwritten note may become the key piece of evidence in your case. But saving everything and submitting everything are 2 very different strategies. You don't dump every document you own into your court papers. You organize it. You identify what actually supports the issues the judge is deciding. That's where strategy comes in. But there's another reason women save everything. Many women believe, I'll just give the judge enough information and they'll finally understand who this person really is. Unfortunately, that's usually not how courts work. Judges don't have unlimited time. They're not reading your case the way your best friend would. They're looking for relevant facts, for patterns, for credible documentation, evidence that helps them make a legal decision, not every painful thing that happened during your marriage. One of the biggest mindset shifts I help clients make is understanding this. Your job isn't to tell the court everything that happened. Your job is to tell the part of the story that helps the judge decide the issue that's in front of them today. Those are very different things. Now, let's talk about what judges actually notice. And this was a lesson I learned the hard way. During my divorce, my ex had a habit of filing enormous motions. The judge actually nicknamed our case the hernia files because every filing was massive. He attached every receipt, every phone log, every random document you could imagine. If I bought groceries, it was in there. If I got my hair colored 2 years earlier, it was in there too. Page after page after page. Looking back now, I realize exactly what he was doing. First, he wanted to create the impression that he had overwhelming evidence. Second, he made the filings so enormous that nobody wanted to read them. It was all smoke and mirrors, more paper, not more proof. And honestly, many women unintentionally do the exact same thing because they're emotionally overwhelmed. They think if I just include everything, something important won't get missed. But what often happens is the truly important evidence gets buried. This is where strategy becomes so important, because not all evidence carries the same weight. A judge is asking questions like, does this establish a pattern? Is this relevant to today's issues? Does this help me make a legal decision? Is this credible? Is it organized? Can I understand it quickly? Notice what's missing. They're not asking, how emotionally upsetting was this? That's not because they don't care. It's because they have a legal question that needs to be answered. And your evidence should help them answer that question. One of the biggest things I help women with is organizing their thinking before they organize their evidence. Because if your thinking is emotionally scattered, your documentation usually becomes scattered too. Instead of asking, what else can I include? I encourage clients to ask, what is the strongest evidence that clearly demonstrates the pattern? That's a completely different approach. Now, let's talk about how to create better evidence. First, think patterns, not isolated incidents. One angry text rarely tells the whole story. 20 examples over 2 years might. Second, organize your evidence chronologically. Help the court follow the story. Don't make them hunt for it. Third, separate emotion from documentation. You can absolutely feel devastated, but your documentation should be calm, clear, professional, easy to understand. And finally, don't confuse volume with credibility. Some of the strongest cases I've seen weren't the biggest binders. They were the clearest. Because clarity builds credibility. Confusion weakens it. Here's what I wish someone had told me before my own divorce. Think back to the handwritten note I told you about earlier. That note wasn't important because it was dramatic. It was important because it directly disproved a lie the court needed to evaluate. That's the difference between more evidence and better evidence. You're not trying to prove that you're the better storyteller. You're helping the court make a decision. Everything you submit should answer one question. How does this help the judge understand the issue they're deciding today? If it doesn't, it may not belong there. So, if you take one thing from today's video, let it be this. Save everything, but submit strategically. Because the court doesn't need every piece of evidence you have. It needs the evidence that tells the clearest, most relevant story. And better evidence is almost always more persuasive than more evidence. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me reach more women who need this information. Now, if today's topic resonated with you, I'd encourage you to watch my video called Why You Should Never Rush a Narcissistic Divorce. One of the biggest reasons women rush is because they're emotionally overwhelmed, and that often affects not just their settlements, but the way they prepare their entire case. I think that video will help you approach your divorce much more strategically. And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone.